In this class, we will discuss realism in Iranian cinema with reference to Abbas Kiarostami's and Jafar Panahi's films. Abbas Kiarostami is the most important author of the new Iranian cinema. His mastery over the construction of image has reached such an apex limit that Jean-Luc Godard appreciated him as cinema starts with D.W. Griffith and ends with Abbas Kiarostami. Godard is absolutely right because the discussion of world cinema is incomplete without any reference to this great Iranian filmmaker. In Abbas Kiarostami's film, we find that he has a power to visualize a profound and poetic reading of life with a minimalistic style. The narrative in his film is seen masterfully replaced by the lived experiences of character with space and time. Kiarostami starts his career in the 1970s with a short film called Bread and Ali. This is a film which shows a boy with a piece of bread followed by a dog. A beautiful film which exposes a piece of reality, and the whole reality is observed, experienced in this film by a child. So, child protagonist has become an important aspect of Abbas Kiarostami's cinema. Also, in Jafar Panahi's films too, we find the portrayal of child protagonist. However, in 1970s, Abbas Kiarostami made several short films like Recess in 1972, like Two Solutions of One Problem in 1975, and also he made his first feature film Musafir. But Abbas Kiarostami's film style developed to the fullest extent in the mid 1980s with the birth of new Iranian cinema. Actually, the marker should be Where is the Friend's Home, the film which is a inspiration of great Iranian poet Sohrab Sipari's poem. This film shows a landscape, zigzag windy landscape from a child's perspective. A little boy from a village called Koker is going to a nearest hamlet in order to find his classmate to return his notebook. The boy's experience, the exposure to the world, to a huge landscape, and the experience of the boy as in the process of being matured is important in this film. In the 1990s, Kiarostami's film actually reached to another level. But we find in his films, the name of the man is Sabzian. Sabzian introduced himself with a lady in the bus, with an old lady in the bus as Mohsen Makbalbab. Actually, the appearance of Sabzian was like Mohsen Makbalbab. Kiarostami's style again slightly changed in late 1990s. We can cite as example Taste of Cherry. From Taste of Cherry, Kiarostami moved towards a philosophical quest of life, the existential aspects of being, and how the life is understood, how the reality is understood, what is the relationship with camera and reality, were Kiarostami's important quest in this phase.
من 35 سال اسیر لیبیا بودم.
In Kiarostami's film, we must emphasize another aspect, mention another aspect of his film, which is the way Kiarostami's cinema shows the landscape. It's very important in Kiarostami's film. Very poetically depicted landscape in Kiarostami's film are very important. Kiarostami himself is a painter, is a photographer, and is a poet. When Kiarostami's film shows the landscape, the Kiarostami's self of a painter, of a poet, of a filmmaker often comes out. We can take an example from The Wind Will Carry Us, which is one of the Kiarostami's best films and worldwide acknowledged. Now Kiarostami in later days, in the last few years, is making slightly different type of films. In 2008 he made Shirin, is a film which is very interestingly depicted the whole story, because Shirin is a different kind of film where there is no landscape. In the soundtrack we hear Amir Khosrow's play Shirin is being played actually. But in the visual, we find the close-ups of Iranian actresses. 100 such faces we find. The film is a tribute to Iranian actresses. The film is a tribute to Amir Khosrow too.
یک تشنه کوچک خستگی این همه سال را از تنم بیرون می کند.
Now, in last few years, Abbas Kiarostami is making films outside Iran, but those are slightly different kind of films. Jafar Panahi is a true disciple of Kiarostami. He assisted Kiarostami in Through the Olive Trees, and Kiarostami was the script writer of Jafar Panahi's first two films, The White Balloon and Crimson Gold. Jafar Panahi's style is slightly different from Kiarostami, though Panahi is largely influenced and inspired by Kiarostami's way of filmmaking. If Kiarostami's films are marked as poetic and philosophical, Jafar Panahi's films are much more down to earth. Both the filmmaker use a minimalist style. Jafar Panahi picks up a story from the next door neighbor's home almost, from the street, and the stories are not at all important in Panahi's film, but important is the way the characters in Panahi's film. Panahi started his career in 1980s when there was Iran-Iraq war. Panahi was sent to the frontier as a documentary filmmaker, as to document the war. After the war, he come back to Iran and he graduated from Tehran Film School, and then he became the assistant in Kiarostami's team. He also worked in television, and his first feature film he made in 1994, The White Balloon. White Balloon is a story of a little girl who is trying to get a fish from her mother in the New Year day, which is in Iran known as Nowruz. The girl somehow loses the money, the currency note is dropped inside a manhole. Now the whole film is about the girl, his brother, trying to take it out from manhole. And this is just this is the film. Narrative is not important. Important is the characters whom the little girl is meeting in this process.
اصلا کار ما را خراب حاصل همین کارگر این طرف هم بعدا برای درست کرد کار من آقا جان نه بابا شاق بشیم یا خدا تارگت دو لفت نفر
دوست داره مگه میشه دیگه اینو در آورد
بابا گذشت کرده مثلا گفتم باید پیران برو نره.
Jafar Panahi made a very important film in the history of new Iranian cinema in 2000, which is The Circle. The Circle shows two young runaway lady. They are trying to escape from their house. They are trying to escape from the patriarchal society. The film shows us the reality faced by these four women. The reality is not very unknown to us. But what we find in this film, the four girls, they are feeling liberated while they are walking through the street. They are trying to mix in the crowd. But what we find in this film is that as if the four women is chased by someone. Practically, they are chased by police, and finally they end up in a prison. We see they are locked up with many other women in a cell, because in Iran it is prohibited for a woman to go outside without accompanied by male any of her relatives. So this film shows the problem of women, the confinement of women in a society. In 2003, Panahi made another film which is Crimson Gold. Crimson Gold is appreciated by critics, some critics, as Jafar Panahi's best film. Crimson Gold shows the experience of a delivery boy who is Hussein. Hussein is a delivery boy of a pizza shop. It's a very bleak story of the poverty in Iranian society. Jafar Panahi actually analyzes in this film, from the perspective of Hussein, a hypocritic society which sugarcoats its wounds with religion, with a kind of morality, with a kind of legalities. But if you uncover the sugar coat, you find a society which is injured, which is bleeding, and which is actually inflicted with underdevelopment and poverty. In relation to Jafar Panahi's cinema, one thing must be mentioned, that all Jafar Panahi's films are banned in Iran. Panahi's films are well acclaimed in world cinema circuit, but Iranian government never allows his film to be exhibited in Iran. In 1980s, the new government, after the Islamic Revolution, that is Khomeini government took some measures to develop the picture in cinema industry, in cinema, in the field of cinema. But gradually the relationship between the Islamic government and the filmmakers deteriorated, particularly after 1990 and after the death of Ayatollah Khomeini. It actually reached to a very bitter moments, and government banned all films made by Iranian news cinema filmmakers. They banned Abbas Kiarostami's films from exhibition. They banned Jafar Panahi's films. They banned Mohsen Makbalbaf and Samira Makbalbaf's film. And that is why many Iranian filmmakers are forced to go to exile. In this context, the most horrible story which took place in last 5 years is related to Jafar Panahi. Panahi was arrested in 2009, and in 2010 the court declared 20 years banning over the filmmaking, and he was put to house arrest for 6 years. But even in house arrest, Panahi made 2 films. One such film is This Is Not a Film. It was sent secretly to Berlin Film Festival, then it came to light. Anyway, This Is Not a Film, Jafar Panahi's a very important work, in a sense that Panahi tells his own story in this film, his own experience of encountering the reality in his films, and most important is how he encountered his encounter with the characters in his film. It is to be mentioned that in Iranian films, particularly in Jafar Panahi's films and also in Abbas Kiarostami's film, we know they work with non-professional actors. Most of the actors of their film are picked up from a neighborhood. They are not actually professional actors. This experience of working with non-professional actors, this experience, the experience of directing film in Iran, is exposed in This Is Not a Film. Panahi is still in house arrest, but in spite of his house arrest, he is making films secretly. His last film, which he made in house arrest, is Closed Curtain. Today we finish the class here. In the next class, we will discuss Mohsen Makbalbaf, Samira Makbalbaf, Majid Majidi's film and their style of filmmaking.